Morning in April of 2025, the USS Harry S sliced through the calm waters of the Red Sea, another standard patrol part of a larger carrier strike group keeping a close watch on shipping lanes and potential threats off the coast of Yemen above the Dekef. A-18s circled inside sailors moved through their daily routines. Then the alarms at 0724 local time radar screens lit up like Christmas unidentified contacts. Fast, low, multiple within seconds, combat stations were manned. The call went out inbound. Missiles, possible drones, multiple vectors. This wasn't a drill. The USS Truman was under attack, rising from somewhere along the Yemen coastline. A salvo of projectiles screamed toward the carrier group cruise missiles. Ballistic rockets and at least one drone, all launched in a tight spread, clearly timed for saturation. The kind of attack designed to overwhelm even the best defenses, but this wasn't some rusted-out patrol boat. No, this was a Nimitz-class aircraft carrier with teeth inside the Combat Information Center. Officers called out intercepts. Aegis consoles began auto-tracking. Flight deck crews were already scrambling to prep jets below decks. The clunk of boots hitting steel echoed like thunder above it. All the foul CIWS turrets came to life with their signature whine, ready to turn the sky into shredded metal, and somewhere in the distance, hidden in the hills of western Yemen, Houthi commanders were watching. They thought it would be symbolic, a slap in the face, a warning. What they got instead was the fuse. Because if there's one rule when it comes to provoking the U.S. Navy, this wasn't some accidental drone veering off course. It was a meticulously planned, multi-pronged assault. In the aftermath of rising tensions in the Red Sea, a wave of coordinated Houthi strikes targeted the USS Harry S. Truman and its accompanying carrier strike group. Within minutes of the alarm sounding, analysts confirmed a complex, multi-axis attack launched from western Yemen. 6 cruise missiles, 2 medium-range ballistic rockets, and an Iranian-made loitering munition, likely a Shahed or Saeed-class drone. This was no spontaneous act. It was retaliation. Just days prior, U.S. bombers struck a suspected weapons facility near Sana'a as part of Operation Rough Rider. The Houthi response was clear and headline-worthy. Houthi forces strike U.S. aircraft carrier. The goal wasn't just to damage U.S. assets, but to send a message, rally supporters, and showcase resistance against a global superpower. Timing was critical. Intelligence reports indicate the attack coincided with an air wing rotation, a window when several aircraft were grounded and pilots were off duty. This was a strategic attempt to hit the Truman when its defenses were potentially down. The onslaught didn't just focus on the carrier. A Ticonderoga-class cruiser, 2 Arleigh Burke destroyers, and even a logistics oiler were targeted. A true saturation strategy aiming to confuse and overwhelm U.S. defense systems. But there was a flaw in that plan. They underestimated what the giant carries. The Truman wasn't sailing alone. It was protected by a full carrier strike group with decades of naval doctrine behind it. The second a radar blip confirmed incoming threats, operations flipped from routine to retaliatory. Within 60 seconds, the Truman battle group was fully engaged. Orders flew across comms, electronic warfare teams jammed signals, and defensive protocols kicked in with precision. The Aegis Combat System took over. No hesitation, just action. SM-2 missiles launched from destroyers locked onto cruise missile trajectories. ESSM interceptors neutralized low-altitude threats skimming the water, while CIWS, Phalanx Gatling guns stood ready to shred anything that breached the perimeter. From the flight deck, it was controlled chaos. Alert 5 Super Hornets were launched, each fully armed with AIM-120 AIMRAMs and Sidewinders, flying combat air patrol above the fleet. One pilot even intercepted and destroyed the incoming drone, turning it into airborne confetti. Meanwhile, deck crews worked in rhythm, reloading and rearming under pressure. The smell of jet fuel, the roar of engines, and the bark of commands filled the air. But through it all, the Truman didn't flinch. The crew was trained, weekly under stress, in full gear day and night, to respond exactly like this. And on that day, they did. By the time the first Houthi missile broke the horizon, the USS Truman's escorts were already 10 moves deep. This wasn't just defense, It was a symphony of technology, coordination, and speed. At the center of it all, the Aegis Combat System, a digital war brain. Aegis doesn't just detect threats, it sees them. Hundreds, simultaneously. It reads the skies in 360 degrees, tracking everything from hypersonic missiles to low-flying drones. Once locked on, it acts. Fast. The first layer of defense kicked in, SM-2 interceptors. Radar-guided, heat-seeking Mach 3 Predators. They don't chase, they intercept. Several ballistic missiles were vaporized mid-arc, detonating high above the ocean in flashes like artificial stars. Second layer, ESSM missiles, the evolved Sea Sparrow. Smaller, faster, ruthless. These are for cruise missiles flying just feet above the water hoping to slip under radar. No chance. ESSMs fly in pairs, close the gap in seconds, and destroy their targets in mid-glide, some just 20 meters from impact. But the Houthi strike wasn't just missiles, it was drones too, which meant it was time for close combat. Third layer, Phalanx, CIWS, or CIWS. A 20mm Vulcan cannon spinning at 75 rounds per second. Yes, per second. It doesn't fire bullets, it creates titanium walls. One drone made it within 1,000 yards. The CIWS woke up. Seconds later, it was raining drone confetti. Above, FA-18 Super Hornets roared in combat air patrol. Armed with AIM-120 AMRAAMs, radar-guided and lethal at long range. If a drone even blinked funny, it got erased. The Truman's defense wasn't a wall, it was a web. Layered, lethal, alive. In 5 minutes, it was over. 18 incoming threats, 0 hits. 9 were shot down mid-air. 3 drones shredded by Phalanx. 1 low-flying cruise missile managed to sneak just under radar, but it didn't get far. A CRAM system aboard an escort destroyer saw it the moment it broke the waveline. 1 interceptor later, and it was a fireball. From the flight deck, it looked surreal. Lights in the sky, explosions at every altitude, no hits. Just the rhythmic clink of shell casings and smoke drifting across steel. And then, silence. A moment of stillness. Sailors scanned the horizon, adrenaline still buzzing. Then came the cheer. Orders resumed. Clear the deck. Secure weapons. Confirm logs. The USS Truman didn't just survive, it didn't even get scratched. Inside the Combat Information Center, radar footage was replayed, trajectories logged, signatures analyzed. Then someone finally said it, all targets neutralized, carrier secure. That wasn't just confirmation, it was a pivot. From defense to retaliation. The Houthis thought they'd landed a blow. What they really did was give up everything. Locations, launch windows, asset signatures, and the U.S. Navy doesn't waste that kind of intel. Back in D.C., there were no press conferences, just silence. But in the belly of the Truman, the silence had already been broken by the hum of rearming jets and loading payloads. This wasn't going to end with survival. It was going to end with smoke. Less than 45 minutes after the final Houthi missile was destroyed, Package Echo was green-lit. A pre-planned protocol. No guesswork, no hesitation. Crews swarmed the hangar. Ordnance teams loaded GBU-38's JDAMs, 1,000-pound GPS-guided smart bombs. No drift, no second chances. Electronic warfare. EA-18G Growlers rolled into position, their pods already humming. Their job? Blind the enemy, jam radar, disrupt tracking, and make the Houthis fight in the dark. At 8:35 a.m., the catapult hissed. The E-2 Hawkeye launched first, eyes in the sky. Then came the FA-18 Super Hornets, 12 of them, twin afterburners slicing the morning air. Their mission, surgical strikes on every site used in the earlier assault. But the Truman wasn't acting alone. From 20 miles east, the USS Gravely, an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer, opened its VLS hatches. Out roared Tomahawk cruise missiles, silent, low, lethal, each with GPS coordinates already burned into memory. The first wave struck a mobile SAM site near Al Hudaida, the same one that lit up during the Houthi strike. A JDAM punched through and folded the launcher like a soda can. Next, a suspected drone warehouse in an industrial zone. Growlers jammed the entire airspace. Hornets flew low, dropped fast. Multiple secondaries confirmed fuel, ammo, electronics, gone. Then came the crown jewel, a command and control bunker deep beneath Ras Isa. Buried, fortified, hidden. Didn't matter. A Tomahawk found it anyway. The Truman seismic sensors picked up the explosion 60 miles away. All aircraft returned. No U.S. casualties. Mission complete. But the true impact wasn't tactical. It was psychological. The message was clear. You fire, we erase. And that's how an attempted ambush turned into a masterclass in modern warfare. Layered defense, precision retaliation, and technological dominance. No speeches, no boasts, just results. The Houthis wanted to make noise. The U.S. made an impact. By sunrise, the skies over Yemen were quiet. Too quiet. No missile trails, no radar pings, just smoldering remains. 3 launch sites destroyed, a command bunker leveled, a drone facility turned to rubble. But there was no victory parade this time, no bold statements from Houthi media, just a vague message claiming the U.S. hit uninhabited structures. Even Iranian channels, normally quick to amplify, were silent. No footage, no evidence, nothing. Behind the scenes, however, the damage was clear. Intercepted communications revealed chaos. Blacked out command nodes, rerouted orders, scrambled units. The strikes hadn't just destroyed gear, they disrupted the whole system. In Washington, no press briefing, just the usual line from the Pentagon. We're monitoring the situation. Translation? This isn't over. Aboard the USS Truman, flight ops resumed fast. Combat patrols doubled. Hawkeyes scanned the coast 24/7. Then came the major shift. A new doctrine. Launch on detect. If enemy radar even resembled a fire control lock, it was now a target. No more waiting to get hit. Soon, the USS Eisenhower rejoined the Truman Group. 2 carriers, destroyers, submarines, a floating fortress. Commercial ships began passing safely through the Bab el-Mandeb Strait again, but now with silent U.S. Guardians watching from just beyond the horizon. The Houthis tried to make a statement. Instead, they got one. Loud, precise, and unmistakable. No headlines, no boasting, just steel, speed, and message delivered. So what's next? Should the U.S. continue with pinpoint responses or escalate and dismantle the threat entirely? Tell us what you think in the comments. And if you want to support this kind of real-world reporting, click Join and become part of the fleet. Like if you learned something. Subscribe for more real, fact-based military breakdowns. And hit the bell so you don't miss the next strike. Stay sharp, stay safe. And remember, if you're the first, you better hope they miss.